get out to the point where we're going to dive. We're all putting our gear on. Everybody's individually suiting up with their air and their vests and their tanks and blah blah. And Jeff's just sitting there, and he's just sitting there for the longest time, and he goes, "Nobody's helping me. Nobody's helping me," and that stuck forever. And you think we're gonna let that go?
Well, John, I've been standing here thinking, how did I meet Jeff? What was the very first time? And obviously I met him through you. Did we play golf together for the very first time that I met Jeff?
Yeah, I mean,
I
probably.
think it must have been, we played golf, but, like Don was saying, Jeff was just a likable guy. He had a smile, he was pleasant,
He loved life.
Yeah, he was fun to be around. He really was. He was a nice guy, and from that golf, we played golf. I can't count the many times we've all played golf together, and Jeff would get out there with his patented swing, but he made it work. He really did. The drive wasn't the best, but his little short game at putting was good as the rest.
He'd hit it 110 yards on his drive, and he'd go, "That's exactly what I wanted to do. Lay up, just lay up,"
But he's just a kind of a guy that was pleasant to be around from the start. You didn't have to warm up to him. He was just Jeff. He was a bright smile and a pleasant companion.
Jeff used to coin the term, "If you give me lemons, I'll make lemonade out of it." And we all watched Jeff struggle through he had a commission type of a profession as a financial planner, and he literally paid his dues, man. He went through failure after failure after failure, and he was always happy. And that guy had a smile on his face, and I'd call him up and he'd say, "John, this trip to Vegas or this whatever we're going to do." And he eventually made it. I mean, he had some great years where he was making good money, and we were able to travel the world, but I watched him struggle and go through some really, really, really lean years. Failure after failure after failure. And he had a thicker skin than everybody I've ever known. He literally personified that. If you give me lemons, I'll make lemonade out of it. That was Jeff, and he right to the very end. Mitch, man?
John's been, like you said, a brother to us all, and he really has been for 30-something years. I mean, it's just amazing. And my dad loved John, Jeff loved John, I love Johnny. Been a part of the family, and kind of lead off what you said about Jeff struggling for many years. Jeff always didn't have a lot, but he was really rich in his friendships. And you guys, everybody here in
loyal.
Space Camp meant the most to my brother. I mean, it really did. And
he loved it here.
It makes me sad coming up here and kind of being part of what Jeff loved for 15 years. And when he passed, Johnny helped us clean up and move Jeff out. And Jenny, I was like, there's only one thing I want, one single thing, and that's the plaque that Johnny made for everybody to commemorate, I think, 15 years of Space Camp. And I still have it. It's the one I'm going to keep. I brought it up today to be part of, the celebration of Jeff today. It was the one big memory that I know Jeff loved.
He loved it here, and he loved all of you.
He loved it. He loved it. We had his remains split. During high school, Jeff and I used to camp a lot up on the Muggill Rim, right on the rim, and we used to fish at Woods Canyon Lake. So about a month ago, my daughter was camping up there. We met her up, and had a similar thing. We spread his ashes over the rim and in Woods Canyon Lake.
That's nice.
So if you ever catch a fish that looks like my brother, I thought ashes were a little bit lighter. They dissipate, and they don't. They're pretty solid. There's a bunch of Jeff still left in there, I'm sure.
I guess it's catch and release.
Yeah, right.
Can you do me a favor? Can you tell the Two Balls Fat story?
I will. But John, mentioned he's been trips all over the world with my brother. We never had that opportunity, but we did have a couple of trips in Vegas. And the one I remember just with John, my mom from Florida flew to Vegas and got married. And John, as family, came up with my brother and myself, and they had a nice service. And then afterward, we're driving. We stayed downtown we were going to had tickets to a show. Shows are pretty pricey, but on the strip somewhere. And
Siegfried and Roy.
The Freedom Roy, okay, Siegfried and Roy Tigers, and I guess you have to
Pre-attack.
pre-attack, right. And I guess you have to check in by a certain
Caesar's
time.
Palace, and we got stuck in bumper to bumper.
Yeah,
We weren't going to make it.
traffic on the strip of Las Vegas. So we've got to check in. We're about a mile and a half away from the hotel Mirage, I think, where it's happening. And John volunteered. He got out and ran a mile and a half.
In dress shoes, you know.
Yeah.
Made it to get our tickets in the nick of time. And to this day, it's the best show that I've ever seen.
It was awesome.
Front row of Siegfried and Roy at a dinner table, and at one point I remember Siegfried flying over us on a rope.
Yeah,
And
great
it was
show.
your mom's wedding. It
Yeah,
was unforgettable.
Great show, but that just shows you our brother John running a mile and a half down Vegas to get to the show.
And Jerry Seinfeld was in attendance in the audience
That's
that
right.
night. 2 balls fat, Mitch.
You got
And this was a
you
New
got-
York, New York.
One of our other trips, I believe I didn't go as often as they did, but one of our trips there, we were gambling, eating, having some drinks. We ended up leaving Excalibur, kind of taking a break to kind of get away from it all, playing in the arcade that they had. And they have this game you may have seen, kids arcade game, where you roll a ball down a small alley, and it lands in a little, they have numbers, like set in a triangle. And depending what number your ball goes in, it's a horse race, and the horse moves. And so you get it in like the 8, your horse moves 8 spot, and then the winner wins a prize, and then if you keep winning, you get bigger and bigger prizes. Well, Jeff was dominating. He's amazing. Game after game,
We couldn't figure it out.
Jeff was winning. It got to a point, these little kids that were also playing were coming up to him between the games and saying, Mister, how do you do it? How do you keep winning? Like, how are you so good? And he's like, I don't know. So the ball goes a hole, my horse, and wins. He was doing great. Finally, we had a little break. They were switching out the horse runner, worker guy. So we had a little break. And Jeff was sitting right next to me. I looked next to him, and then the little hopper where the ball comes down to, he had 2 balls.
And we all had one.
All had one.
I don't even think he ever knew.
He never knew. The game is you have 1 ball and you throw it, and then you wait for it to come back to you. But Jeff had 2. He didn't know it.
He won
But
race after race.
He kept throwing.
Frustrated the shit out of Mitch and I.
Throwing
And
it.
here Mitch and I are, we fancy ourselves in being a little more coordinated and athletic. We couldn't beat this guy. We had 1 ball. He had 2. And hence the legend of 2 balls fat was created.
Yeah, so that night the legend of 2 balls fat was born. So, and I think he was banned from every casino arcade from Vegas to Reno ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I know, but again, Jeff, we love all this. We love you guys. We love Space Camp. Really appreciate you letting us join you today.
Well, thank you for coming.
Well, Lord, into your hands we commit our friend, father, son, brother. Amen.
Amen. Listen to that wind through the trees. That's just a
Look at that dog, guys.
tribute to Jeff. Brady,
Amo,
this is a-
yeah, and you said Amo was stressed out, and now she's all calm.
It is beautiful. Listen to that wind through the trees.
Well, if everybody can stand it, I'll tell a couple of stories about Jeff.
Please, Dave.
I wrote about 4 pages, and you guys will be grateful I lost them. So this is my directions up here, and my agenda for what I was supposed to do while I was up here. So anyway, that's no good. Jeff always used to call me by both names. So Dave Minor.
Every time.
Yeah, every time. And I remember the poker games, and I think that's where I probably first met him, although I had heard you talk about Jeff, I think, John. And at the plant when we were on midnights. And I remember the poker games because I remember just how you, Alex, and your sister would always run up to Jeff as soon as he walked into the house and go, Jeff, we're doing this, or Jeff, we're going to do this, or Jeff, can you? And I thought, wow, that's an indication of character. That shows that if the kids come up and love you, then that's something. And I really love those poker games, and he's going to be missed there. And the one thing I think of is there's golf stories, but this golf story in particular, Jeff was at different times he was my insurance agent, he was my stockbroker, and he was my realtor. So let's say he went through a few careers.
Was he ever your bookie?
He never was my bookie, though. No.
He would have been eventually.
Yeah. I didn't get in on the yak.
You retired before all of us.
No yak.
Yeah.
He must have been good.
And we were playing golf. John, I think it was Royal Palms. They're up McKellips, I think. And we got to like the third, fourth hole, and he had brought a friend of his from work, from the brokerage firm. Tim.
They were both stockbrokers, financial planners, trying to make it kind of at the low end of the totem pole.
Yep. And they were talking about their jobs, and we were talking back and forth about different things, John and my jobs. And we got to the fourth hole, I think it was, and there were people in front of us, so we had to wait. So Tim and Jeff dropped the balls on the ground, and there was a tee marker about right where that piece of wood is, and they sat there for about the 10 minutes that it took for the people to get finished playing the hole, and they were playing $1 who got closest to that tee box marker.
Intensely going at it.
Intensely,
both of them
arguing over. Well, mine is a little closer. Well, mine is, and then mine.
Betting $1 each time.
$1 each time, and John and I are standing over it, and I said, John, I think we are getting a rare glimpse into the world of high finance. And they both lifted their heads up and
Well, just to tell you how good of a stockbroker Jeff was, and I think this is important to note,